Hi, it's the Rawesome Vegan Gal here, and today I have one of my healthy living topics to share with you. And this is about the many uses of coconut. Who knew there were so many, right? It's not just about using it for food. It's actually used for fuel, for shelter, and the coconut tree, it's one of the most sustainable cultivations on earth. So every part of the coconut can be used, from the stem to the trunk, to the leaves, to the roots. So I'm going to share with you some of this. It's very interesting information. And if you ever get to some of these other countries that use these parts of the coconut for different things, maybe you can see the actual products. So if you don't know what a coconut looks like, usually coconuts come in the real coconuts that you see in nature have a hard green shell on them. I don't have a picture of them, or I don't have one to show you. But if you look that up online, you can find that. But what you find in stores is you find either the older looking coconuts with the brownish shell, hairy, or the ones that are shaved down, and you see them in plastic white with like a conical shape. I wouldn't buy those. I've heard a lot about that they use formaldehyde to soak them in. They're not organic either. And also that they're not protected. Once they remove that shell, that hard shell, that's what keeps it pristine in nature. There's another actual coconut that I got to review on my channel, and this was from a company called Hamona, and that's what their coconuts look like, but that's how they are. They don't do anything to them, so you can check that out on my site as well. And they don't use any preservatives or anything. I mean, nothing to preserve it. It's just natural the way it is, and it's raw. So, to tell you more about the many uses of the different parts of coconut, first I'll talk about the fruit, and then I'll talk about the other parts. So you have first the outer shell, which is called the coir, C-O-I-R. It's the fiber that's used from the outer husk of the coconut, and it's a natural elastic fiber. It's extracted from the coconut husks. It can be used to make floor mats, doormats, brushes, ropes, and strings, stuffing for mattresses, and caulking for boats and fishing nets. So who knew? It has all those many uses. See, people don't realize that it's not just about what the part of it that you eat. It's about every part of it that can be used for something that would be useful. And then after that, you have the coconut husk. We'll go kind of from the outside in. So the coconut husk, or the coconut husk is before the shell. So that's like the inner side of the fiber of the inside. It's hard to explain, but if you go online, you can see that. So the coconut husk can be used for a variety of household products, a flooring material, and pots for plants. And then you have inside of that, you have the coconut shell, and that can be used to create bowls, utensils, handicrafts, also as a body for some musical instruments, or as caves for an aquarium. If you put it in there, that could be a nice thing for the fish, I guess. After you ground it, it can be ground up and can use it in exfoliating skin products. The husk together with the shell, so the husk would be the outer side of that inner core, along with the shell, can be used for fuel and are a source of charcoal. Also for buffing the floors, I guess, if you want to shine them up. And also when burned, for smoke to repel mosquitoes. So who knew? So it has these many uses. So after that, we get next to the coconut water, which is inside. So the coconut water is, as we know, and I've done reviews on coconut water, so you already know about that. It's a refreshing drink. Can be used to also produce, so they use the coconut water to produce different things. Something called nata de coco, which is a jelly-like food. I never heard of that. Coconut wine, that's interesting, so you could ferment it. And also coconut vinegar when fermented, that I know about. And I've reviewed that on my channel as well. Next you have the coconut meat, which is actually on the outside. The water is interior, so actually it should have been coconut meat before that, but that's okay. So the coconut meat can be used, as you know, for making many types of foods. Coconut oil, coconut milk, nectar, coconut sap can further yield something called mira, palm wine when fermented, a sweet syrup or candy, and coconut sugar or palm sugar. So that's from the meat as opposed to the water. So that's interesting. That has all those many uses, the actual coconut fruit itself, from the outside to the inside. So you got to hear all different things. So you may want to experiment on your own or try some of these other products that you can use it. Next we have the coconut leaves. So the palm leaves, you know, can they be used for? You can use them for brooms, baskets, and mats, cooking skewers, kindling, what do I have written there? Kindling arrows, I don't know what that is, roofing thatch, and temporarily sheds. So that can be all, I guess they weave them in a certain way if you go to countries that use that. Then the actual trunk of the coconut can be used to make furniture and houses. Can be used for to create drum containers and canoes. Interesting, yeah. You would carve it out. Then the actual coconut roots, the roots that are in the ground, they can be used as a dye. I didn't know that. Used as a mouthwash. Interesting. Frayed pieces of the coconut root can be used as a toothbrush because they look like bristles. That's interesting. So if you don't have a toothbrush in, let's see, a country that would have those things. So now coconut has many uses around the world. What they use them for. So, for example, in the Philippines, it's something called bunat, and in Jamaica they call it a coconut brush. So they make from the coconut shells a brush to use to buff the floors. So that's what they use from the shell itself. So that's the outside. Then in Malaysia they have something they call a tempurung. I might be pronouncing these wrong, but I'm doing my best. The Malay word for shell. That's what it means. So the coconut shell is used to make a soup bowl and a ladle. So that's interesting too, the actual shell itself. So, they have a way, I guess, of doing it and making it work. In another country called Kiribati, again, I don't know where that is, something they call tekmai, and then in the Maldives, they call it dihiya hakuru and adu bondi. I'm not pronouncing them right, so I apologize. So what those are sweet syrup and candy made from boiling the coconut sap. Then in Indonesia, something called sapulidi, and in the Philippines they call it walis ting ting, which are brooms made from the coconut leaves. Then in China, yehu and banhu, and Vietnam dan gao, and then in Middle East and Eastern Europe, rebab. These are musical instruments they make from coconuts. In the Philippines, something called lambanog, which is also known as coconut vodka. So that's the names for what they call them. And again, Kiribati, something called karawi, which is a fresh drink derived from the coconut sap. Then in the Philippines, something called tuba. And in Indonesia and Malaysia, they call it tuak, which is a drink extracted from the coconut sap. So all these are very interesting. So if you ever get to any of those countries, you might want to ask them about what they use the coconut for. Like, so many countries that have coconuts. Again, Philippines, Jamaica, Malaysia, the Maldives, Indonesia, China, Vietnam, Kiribati. Again, that one I don't know where that is or never heard of it. So that would be very interesting to see it in action, or see the actual natives making different things from them, especially when they're not just the food stuff. I mean, when they make things out of them, like bowls and brooms and stuff like that. And that would be very interesting to watch the process of how they do that. So yeah, I thought that'd be interesting just to know some information about how the coconut is versatile. Every part of it can be used. So it's not just one thing that you eat the meat or the water or make things out of it edible, but also all different kinds of things that it can be useful for. So I hope that this was informative for you. I know it was informative for me, and look forward to the video next week, because I'm actually going to be specifically talking about coconut oil and something I've used for my oral hygiene that I've seen some unbelievable results. So I wanted to share that with you, and then talk a little bit more about some of the other benefits of coconut oil. And I thank you for watching. Awesome Vegan Gal.